by Farm Bureau Insurance, making your life a little more predictable.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the George Perles Show. Well, the first weekend of Michigan State football, 1984, is history, and 24-21. The Spartans beat Colorado. You're up 24-0. You look dominant, and all of a sudden they come back, and it's holding on at the end.
Well, I think we tested all of our hearts in that game. It was exciting, more exciting than we bargained for. But what happened is we got out to a big lead. We decided, or I decided, to get more conservative than I should have been. We started running the football more than keeping them honest with the pass. We didn't have success, didn't get the important first downs we needed. We had a couple fumbles that we didn't bargain for. We had a partially blocked punt that we didn't bargain for. They played extremely well. That whole combination led into one kind of a cliffhanger that I'm glad we won. I'm sure that it'll help us this week in preparation for Notre Dame. We didn't plan to do it that way. It worked that way, and it is a win. I wanted the players to know that it is a win. I wanted the players to enjoy last night, today, and then come Monday, we'll start our preparation at Notre Dame. We'll use the film to criticize, to improve, and I shouldn't have backed off so early. I should have gone a couple more series, ran some more time off the clock, stayed with our game plan, and then not get conservative until about 5 minutes left in the game. It was a little bit too early, and it was a mistake on my part.
Okay, we'll be back to check out that 24-21 victory over Colorado. We have all the highlights for you. We also have the rehabilitation process of Spartan quarterback Dave Uremo. All that and more to follow as the George Perles Football Show continues. Out at Boulder, Colorado for their game against the Colorado Golden Buffaloes, and right off the bat, as promised, Ralph Mojenko cranks the opening kickoff right into the end zone.
Right out of the end zone. I think that Ralph deserves a chance to kick that ball as far as he can. First thing we'll do is get him all confused if we start trying to have him drop the ball on the goal line or the 5-yard line and so on and so forth.
They came out throwing. They had success through the air, not so much success on the ground.
Well, they ended up with 14 yards rushing for the day, so our run defense was excellent. They did have to throw the football, and they
did get a good rush.
Well, we sacked them 8 times. That's Jim Ranella putting the tag on them there, and it's a fumble, but it was called a dead ball. We had 8 sacks. They rushed for 14 yards, and they knew they had to throw the football. They got a little more dangerous throwing the ball in the second half than they were in the first half.
Right here, they continue to have problems on the ground.
On the run, yes. That's Tom Allen making the tackle there. He was on a game where he hit the inside gap and penetrated.
First big break of the ball game.
Yes, we have a return on, but every time we have a return, we always have someone responsible for containing the kicker, making sure he kicks it, or if there's a bad snap or fumble, to be there to recover the fumble. Lonnie Young did that, and it gave us the big play. We come in there with a 34 lead, we call it, and gain a couple yards on first down. Second down, we repeat. We don't get much there. We're down to the 1-yard line. They're playing the goal line blitz defense where they're penetrating the inside gaps. We run a toss to the outside, try to stretch them and look for the first cutback, and Carl Butler goes in and scores and gives us a 7-0 lead. You can see here, if they keep stretching it, the hole gets bigger. They came across and penetrated, so we had a void in between their cornerback and their outside linebacker.
So they give you a gift, you take advantage of it. Mojenko hits, it's 7-0. Here's a look at Aaron Roberts a little bit later in the first quarter.
Aaron ran hard, and he was running hard in the fourth quarter when he had that untimely fumble, or the end of the third quarter. But he ran hard all day. Here's a screen to Larry Jackson. We called a quick screen to the out end. Larry was our only player that had any type of injury at all. He had a hip bruise, a hip pointer, and he should be all right this week. It's not a real serious one. We came out of the game pretty good shape physically.
You get a look coming up here at Keith Gates. After they assess the penalty, you're penalized quite a bit in the first ball game of the season. That's fairly normal.
Well, a little bit more than we'd like. We have to cut down on those things.
Happy with the backs, though?
Yes, that was Keith Gates on a P10, we call it. It was a short yardage play. He almost broke it all the way. You can see him step over people here. Good feet. If he breaks one more tackle, he had a chance to go the distance. It was a short yardage play. I think they expected us to go wide.
7-0 Michigan State after the first quarter. First play of the second quarter, you hit Carl Butler.
Good throw and a good catch. Gives us a nice, timely first down. Dave's chased out of the pocket, but he has that ability to run with the football and to throw. We actually practice that. That's
something. You get nervous on a play like right here, Coach, when he's running that ball after what happened to him last year?
No. Dave knows and has confidence. He knows we want him to get out of bounds. If he's caught where he can't get out of bounds, we'd like him to slide, to hit the ground just before he's tackled. He does that well.
You don't know it at the time, but here's the margin of victory right here. A 47-yard field goal by Mojenko, giving the Spartans a 10-0 lead.
Great kick. I think it could have gone another 10, 12 yards. Ralph felt good. His leg was strong, and it was a very important field goal. All
what
the points.
Happened here?
Here was, I thought, a terrible call. It was a great interception. I don't think you'll see on the replay here where there isn't contact. The guy that calls the play is way deep in the secondary. But again, officials can't win or lose the game for you. You have to play over calls you think that are bad calls. You can see here, he'll throw to his receiver. Lonnie Young is right in front, goes out of his way not to have contact. The official next to it doesn't call it, the one way down in the middle, and those are some of the things you worry about when you have split crews of officials. Here's Kelly Quinn on a sack. Kelly had 3 sacks in the game. We sacked him 8 times. I think that's the most we've sacked a quarterback in the last 2 years. And our pass rush is good, and that's 4 people rushing against 8 of them. They kept everybody in. They were going for the long one. It was maximum protection. It's a great job by Kelly Quinn.
And another one coming up here by your captain.
Jim Morrissey, you'll see him come through this gap. It's a blitz that we're running here. They don't know how to pick up the blitz, and so Jim is in there free and makes that big sack. I think we have a replay of this also. We have a couple different kinds of blitzes depending on if we think it's going to be a play pass or drop back pass or a run. And we were right in our assumption this time that it was going to be a drop back pass. Kelly Quinn coming in to help Morrissey on that play.
So it's Spartans to the offense, leading 10-0, driving as the first half coming to an end here.
Dave threw the ball well. We could have thrown it a lot more. We didn't even use most of our offense. We hadn't got involved with any of our play pass. We hadn't done a lot of things from our I formation. Here's a quick screen again to Larry Jackson. And when people play off him, he has that kind of speed that we can throw to him and get some yardage. Here's Dave running again. Watch him slide. Okay, and that's what we expect. There's no problem getting that yardage, but we don't want him to take those tackles.
And the bomb to Ingram, and Michigan State is off and running by a score of 17-0 after Mojenko will hit the point.
Great throw. You can see Dave pump, man in his face. He's got this nice soft ball, good distance. Mark has his man beat pretty bad. He's running out of end zone, so he has to slow up a little bit. And Ralph had a perfect day.
You see Ralph dumped right there, and the score 17-0 at half.
Yes, and that's a nice score. We have to go in the locker room, make sure that our players don't think that the game's over. That is a concern. We go into the locker room and make our adjustments, talk about a 0-0 game. We have to score another touchdown and break their backs. And we do that. And that's, as it ends up, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I try to impress on the football team that we're winning 17-0. The most important score is the next score. If we get ahead 24-0, we're in great shape. We need to score. We need to get great field position with the returning of the kickoff. They come out, and they do it right away, a little bit quicker than I thought they would. Now we've got them 24-0. Maybe they took me literally. But that combination and us getting conservative is a great lesson for all of us. And I think we laugh about Yogi Berra.
Never over till it's over.
Never over until it's over. And we'll have to write Yogi and tell him that we didn't really take him up on that. But that is a problem. But looking at a coaching standpoint, ideally you'd like to win your games in the early part of the season, maybe not look as good as you'd want, so you have things to work on, improve, because you're always going to improve or you're going to go downhill. We certainly have a lot to work on this week. We should be better prepared to play Notre Dame after coming close like this rather than having a blowout. I hope that we can take something like this, make a positive out of it, and take advantage of what we have. And that's our philosophy anyhow, to make positives out of things. And I can't wait to get to the practice field Monday. It's going to be a very interesting day. Our players will come there ready to work. They'll be ready to be criticized. They'll be ready to improve.
Okay, we'll check the second half highlights in a little while. We'll be back in just a moment with the rehabilitation of Spartan quarterback Dave Urema as the George Perles Show continues.
During the Illinois game last year, Dave Urema, our starting quarterback, was injured, suffering a shoulder separation, or what this means to the average person is that his clavicle, which attaches to the shoulder, was separated from its position on the shoulder. The reason this required surgery is that if it is left alone to heal on its own, the person that's probably not involved in a sport like football would do very well, but have some deformity in the shoulder. In order to make Dave a returning quarterback, it was felt necessary to operate on him.
Injury and recovery of Michigan State's quarterback, Dave Urema, who is next to me right now, with Michigan State's coordinator of athletic training, Clint Thompson. Clint, it's kind of a success story now as we talk about it here in the fall.
Well, David has come through with flying colors, Terry, and it's a tribute to both the surgery and the surgeon and David's hard work in the off-season.
Why don't you remind us again, Clint? Let's go back and talk about that injury and where it affected Dave and what happened.
Well, as you can see, the scar on his shoulder, there's a joint that sits right here. And that joint was completely disrupted when he was tackled. He fell, somebody fell on top of him, and it just completely disrupted that joint. And what Dr. Ross, the orthopedic surgeon, felt was the best approach was to surgically repair it. You don't have to surgically repair these. With an athlete with David's capabilities, his potential, and so on, that was the best way to approach it. And so he repaired it surgically, and it's come well since.
Clint, what was the rehabilitation program that you and the doctors suggested for Dave?
After a period of rest, healing, then we had to make sure that David had the normal range of motion in the joint, in the whole shoulder. From there, we worked on the strength of the muscles that surround the joint itself, and after that, he was strong enough to start throwing, and the tale will be told this fall.
Okay, well, again, Clint, congratulations to you, the surgical staff, and everyone involved, and now the burden is on this young man.
Well, I'm looking forward to this fall, and David's going to have fun.
We all are, we hope. Dave, why don't you put your shirt back on, and we'll talk to you a little bit about what it must have been like mentally, of course, right after the injury, and then, of course, a little bit of the physical side of it, too.
Yeah, it was tough, you know. 1 week you go and beat Notre Dame, and then, you know, we play Illinois in front of national TV, and I'm in the hospital 2 days later. You know, that's tough.
Yeah. Were you down for long, Dave, or after the surgery, did you, when the doctors told you that it was successful, is that when you started picking up?
Yeah, when they told me that everything went all right, I just had faith in the doctors and in Clint, and I knew that everything would come back the way they said it would.
Because of the injury, did you find yourself throwing the ball more once you could? Once they said, okay, you can snap it. Did you find you actually were doing more to just keep testing it and testing it?
Yeah, I did. You know, once they told me I could throw, man, I threw it all I could. Because I thought, you know, I thought of maybe I wouldn't be able to throw it again, you know. So once I could, man, I threw it a lot.
Dave, obviously you had to spend a lot of time in the weight room rehabilitating. What did you work on specifically, and what do you think it accomplished?
Well, the first thing I did was we had a little wheel that was attached to the wall, and I spent a lot of time just trying to get my range of motion back. You know, a lot of range of motion exercises. And then after that, I went into the mini gym, which is a lot, you know, more range of exercises, drills, and then I went right into the free weights and started doing what everybody else was doing.
Did that help you?
Yeah, it did. It really did. It helped a lot, especially the range of motion. Once you get your range of motion back, you can work on the strength, and it came back pretty quick.
Dave, what are your thoughts about having a backup like Trent Anicherico, for example, who can also throw the ball very well? And is it good that he's perhaps pushing you at that starting spot?
Trent's a good quarterback, and so is Clark. And, you know, we push each other every day, and it's an everyday thing, you know. And he's a good quarterback, though.
Okay, what do you expect for Michigan State's football team this year?
I expect 1-0 right now. We're going to go out and beat Colorado.
Yesterday out in Boulder, Colorado, we've got a couple of fans that were at the ball game, came back on the team plane last night, and were corralled and ready to answer some questions.
Oh, yeah. I bet there'll be good ones this time.
Here we go.
Hi, George. My question is, today I noticed you were quite angry with the officials during one of the plays. What was it that went on?
Well, the question that he's referring to is after our extra point, our 17th point, someone came in and cut Ralph Mojanko's legs from under him. And I wasn't concerned about the point. I was concerned about Ralph's physical being. I kicked his leg that's planted in the ground. I asked the official to come to the sidelines, and he wouldn't come, and that's what irritated me, because just before that, in the locker room, before the game, as a very nice gentleman, he said that if I had any questions, to call him over, he'd come over. And then when he didn't come, I was trying to do everything I could to get his attention and get him over there. He did come over later and say that the man came in, slid, and Ralph stepped on him after the fact. And I told him, well, that's all I wanted to know is what's going on, and so I can go into the locker room at halftime and be prepared to talk to the team and explain to Ralph what the call was. So it wasn't a big thing, but it did need some attention, and I think we got it.
Okay, we have time for one more.
Coach, good luck the rest of the season, and I was just wondering how you might think Coach Bill McCartney's team might do, because he's got a heck of a good reputation around the Big 8.
Well, I think that they're going to be improved. They are improved this year. The thing that I would worry about is that the offense they ran was good for the opening game. They did a good job of keeping people out of practice. They did a good job
They caught you by surprise.
Yes, to a degree they did. They changed their whole offense. They went to something that the Denver Broncos are using now. They kept people out of practice. They kept the media out. We really didn't know what to expect in the opening game. All we had to go on is what they did last year. And I think that that type of offense, after people have a chance to work at that passing game without much of a running game, could be some problems for them. If we played them again, we would play a little bit different in our secondary because of the offense that they used.
Well, you haven't seen a whole lot of that Colorado offense yet, but you are going to the second half of the show as they take over the football game. We'll be back with the highlights of the second half and a lot more as the George Perles Show continues. Michigan State in control. As control even further here in the third quarter. You can see the Rocky Mountains in the background and about 35,000 fans on hand at Folsom Stadium. Again, 17-0 in favor of MSU. A nice relaxing chat with head coach George Perles at halftime, and they come right out and score here in the second half.
Well, we told them it was important to get this next score in and break their backs. We had great blocking downfield. You can see our tight end, Dino Belk, get the block. On the replay, you'll see Wojciechowski with a block here. Number 73 out in front. There's right there is a key block. And then Vino Belk will turn back here for another key block, and we're gone. Now ahead 24.
Well, it looks like you're gone as far as the game goes. It's 24-0. You're in complete command. You've got that 3+ scores, and then you come down and you storm Colorado again right on the kickoff.
Well, we've got great enthusiasm with some of our young people on the kickoff team. This is Keith Fisher from Ambridge, Pennsylvania, a freshman, who makes a tackle somewhere around the 15-yard line. So we're in good shape.
They had a number of these over the course of the day.
Well, that one there, they were offsides, and Phil Parker, being our safety, stopped play because he thought the whistle should have been blown, and we got to play the plays out. We can't ever stop, and it's another lesson we had to learn. Here's a rush, good penetration, a good throw. That was the tight end coming all the way across the field and gets them out of the hole. And we're playing a pretty conservative game right now defensively. Anybody that doesn't would be wrong, but you expect people to ball react a little bit more than that. And there isn't anything very pressing going on right here. They're getting some passes, they're getting some yardage, but they're not scoring, and that's the object right now. Not to give them an easy score, to make sure that they keep the clock rolling, keep them in bounds, give them the short things. Something this long, we should have a little tighter coverage on, but making sure that we don't give them the bomb.
Come right back with the interception here, though.
And it works right in our hands. We've got good pressure. They throw the ball for grabs. Phil Parker gets an interception. We've got the ball in decent field position. Now we want to run the ball, control the ball, eat up the clock, and get the game over with. We think that we are in pretty good shape.
You don't move the ball, however, they get it back again, but still 24-0.
They still get the ball back. They're running the football, playing into our hands. We're playing pass. They run the ball. Obviously, they're going to gain a few yards. Here they go, throwing it deep again. We've got people around, but we're a little bit too loose. We need our backers to get a little bit deeper.
Okay, late in the third quarter, this is where the game begins to turn around.
Here we are. We got a first down there at the 28-yard line. We're controlling the ball. This is for a first down, but it's an untimely fumble. Now is when we're in trouble. We don't count on those things happening. The players don't do it on purpose. Sometimes we get a little lackadaisical, then they put together a great throw and a great catch, and all of a sudden they're on the 5-yard line.
And closing in on their first score, still 24-0. We've just begun, really, for all practical purposes, the fourth quarter.
The fourth quarter, right. And again, they play a little more reckless when they're losing by that many points. They're throwing things that maybe they wouldn't throw if it was a closer game. What's one more interception? We've got tight coverage, but they have a great catch, and they get the first score.
You also get conservative. You go 1-2-3 kick after the touchdown, and they get the ball right back again.
Yes, and they get the ball down in their territory. They throw a deep one. We get called for pass interference. Instead of the ball going to the 32, it's a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage. And a necessary penalty there gives them even better field position.
You got to give a lot of credit, too, to their quarterback, Vogel. He stuck right in there, and he started really getting the hot hand there in the fourth quarter.
Well, he's played a lot of football for him. He's a fifth-year senior. He throws the ball well. The criticism people have on him is the inability to scramble and move that well. Here we have a great rush. We let the tight end get off to the inside, and he makes a catch that gets him in good field position again.
Kelly Quinn again.
Yes, another sack, one of the 8. Kelly's third there, and gets him a little bit deeper, puts him in a little bit poorer position.
Your coverage will break down right here, though, on the next play.
He steps up. We've got a good rush. He steps up. We had a zone coverage there. Our corner went into the post with the first receiver that came downfield, and he didn't think that they'd have that much time. They wouldn't have that much time, but the quarterback did a great job. Vogel stepping up.
6:12 to go in the ball game now after you had gone 1-2-3 kick. Colorado with the ball, and you can see Vogel going to the air again.
Vogel's throwing. We have 3 people around. A great catch. We would expect to have that thing when it's hung up like that to be intercepted. Now, of course, the draw is a compliment to the passing game when you're rushing the passer, teeing off. the draw is a good call. It does run the clock, though. Here they are again with another sack. Puts them back in a field goal position. That one there was probably a little bit closer than the last one. Here we get the ball touched where Ralph only kicks it near midfield. It was a good kick, but someone from the outside got a hand on the ball. It was kicked so hard he still got a chance to get it to midfield. Thrown again. Now we are a little bit poor on our pass rush here. The reason being they've been on the field the whole time. This is a blitz. Great throw, great catch. And it leads to that big touchdown. They're all
24-21, a minute 28 to go. This big play right here.
Here's the first down. We needed that. We had the first down. We bumped into our own man, dropped the ball. Again, we come with another sack. Jim Ranella, a big sack. Officials finally blow the whistle. We lose contain here because Kelly is grabbed by the leg and can't get away to contain him.
It all comes down to the final field goal. He hits it, it's a tie ball game.
Yes, and that one there was, the one before was a lot closer. That was way off to the left with maybe a bad angle. But
24-21. They had a game last night. I know we talked about it before the show. You didn't see it. Alabama had a 31-14 lead over Boston College, blew it, and wound up losing the game 38-31. And I think Frank Broyles, during the course of the game, was saying it's very difficult to get a college team to play 60 minutes the first game.
I don't know if that's true. It's certainly not an excuse. Our players, our defense was on the field too long. They played Colorado a very open game. What else are you going to do when you're losing by 24 points? We played a conservative game. I've been involved in games like this before. We did the same thing in our third Super Bowl in 1978. We were winning by 17 points with...
Against who now?
We were playing Dallas, and we were winning with 6 minutes and 27 seconds to go. We played a prevent defense. We were willing to give them the short stuff. They did come down and score. Staubach had a hot hand. The onside kick, got the ball, scored again. Time ran out. We won the game. I've been involved in 3 of these type of games, and we've won all 3. They're not, and there's no way I can justify having a close game. But the point is to win. I'm not interested in winning by a certain amount of points. I'm not worried what the spread's supposed to be. That's not our concern. I just want to use this game to help us in the Notre Dame game, to use it as a motivator, to make sure, and there are lessons to be learned. I'm talking about after football. And the games aren't over until the last strike. And we talk about it, Now we have living proof. It's something that I have to relearn.
And 6 years, 1978, 1984.
And it's something our players will remember for a long time. They're not happy the way it ended. I'm not. And I think we'll be better prepared for Notre Dame because we had a close call than we would be to come in here and have a 24-0 game under our belt and worry about what would be the big question you'd say, Bob. George, aren't you concerned that you won by 24 points and you might be the combination of you winning by 24 and Notre Dame losing, overconfident? Won't you have to work on that this week? So you have other questions that take that place. We've eliminated that one anyhow from your show.
Okay, and we'll be back to meet Spartan Terry Lewis as the George Perles Show continues. On Spartan Profile, Terry Lewis, your defensive back.
Yes, Terry Lewis is our right corner. He's from Highland Park, Michigan. He played for a former Spartan, Jim Bobbitt, and is a senior this year. Had a good game yesterday. They didn't work on his side very often. He came up, and one thing that we were a little surprised about was the way our people came up after they did catch the football, and we tackled them. We tackled them in at some times with great strength and good hits, and they didn't fumble the ball like some people do with the way we hit on defense back there. So it's a credit to Colorado that they kept from fumbling the ball. Terry played well, and I'm looking forward to having him play well the rest of the season.
Well, Terry's got Brad Van Pelt, old number 10, so let's meet Terry Lewis.
Terry Lewis is our starting right corner this year. Last year he started over half the season for us. Potentially he's an excellent football player. He's certainly a guy that we're going to be counting on heavily to share the burden in pass defense and run support this year. He's had an excellent fall practice, an excellent spring practice. We're really looking for a great season from Terry Lewis this year. I think with a little additional confidence, Terry can be a great player for us.
Well, you may know the Dave Urimas, the John Wojciechowskis, the Jim Morrisseys, the Phil Parkers on the Michigan State starting football team. But I wonder if you can recognize that face right there. He has lettered 3 years. He's a starter now in his 4th and senior season, defensive cornerback Terry Lewis. You kind of feel like Rodney Dangerfield a little bit, Terry. Maybe you don't get enough respect?
Well, it isn't that I don't get enough respect, I guess. I just haven't made the big plays yet, you know. I've been here a while, and it takes time, so it'll come in, hopefully, this year.
Terry, when you came to Michigan State, you had a pretty big transition to make because you had not played defensive back in all of your high school career.
Right. In Highland Park, I played running back and linebacker. And it was a big transition for me, never being able to have any experience at defensive back. But it came over kind of well. I had a good coach here my first year, and Mr. Ty Willingham. And he showed me a lot of good techniques, and it came over pretty well after that.
Terry, you've also obviously had to go through a lot of conditioning, as well as learning the position of defensive back and strength and drills and that kind of thing. Has that helped you become a better player?
It has truly helped me. The strength program here is one of the best in the Big Ten. In high school, we didn't have a big strength program. Matter of fact, my last year, we had just gotten weights to start lifting with. So coming here and help strengthening myself back up, I've become a better player, I think, to that, too. I'll be able to endure a little more pain, I might say.
What about the Terry Lewis off the football field for just a moment? What are you studying in school? What do you hope to do when you get out of school? Things that occupy your time when it isn't football.
Well, right now I'm studying social science. I'm employee relations. Things that interest me, well, in the beginning, my first couple of years, freshman and sophomore, I was a kind of party goer, you know. I had to see what MSU was really like, you know. Right now, I'm kind of more setback person. I'm keep to myself a lot and just have a few friends that I hang around with after practice or during school.
Terry, does it help when you have people like Phil Parker, Jim Morrissey with some experience around you that maybe lets you have a little more freedom to do more?
Oh, definitely. Having Phil Parker and Jim Morrissey there, you know right now they have experience in playing before, and that, you know, you kind of feel comfortable doing your job because you know they're going to handle theirs pretty well.
Interceptions are probably the thing defensive backs lick their chops over. Look for most. That's what you really, because that's when you get the glory.
That's right. Interceptions are like one of the biggest turnarounds in the game. You can make or break a game with an interception, and everybody knows when you make a big play like that.
Terry, in the facts book at Michigan State, the coaches are saying that this may be the year that Terry Lewis has some stardom. They're expecting things from you now. They're putting a little pressure on you to perhaps produce. Does that bother you?
It puts pressure on you, but it kind of makes you feel good inside that the coaches have that kind of confidence in you and can see things like that in you. I try not to really strive on what the words in the book say. I try to just make myself better and go out there and try to do everything as well as I can because I have a coach who is a perfectionist, and he kind of gets on our case when we don't do just the little things.
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
What about goals you've set for yourself personally, Terry, or perhaps for the team as a whole?
I've really set some goals as far as myself. It's just being more consistent than I was last year. I thought I may have let down little areas in what I played, but besides, I just want to be more consistent, be a confident player on the field, feel relaxed. And for the team, I just want to have a good season where we can all play together and play as a team and can have a great season.
Look at the scouting report for the Irish of Notre Dame. You have to think, first of all, about the final score of the Michigan State-Notre Dame game in Coach George Perles' first season, 28-23 Michigan State in South Bend. With me is outside linebacker Coach Norm Parker, who knows a lot about Notre Dame. But, Norm, what you don't know is what's in their minds when they're getting ready to come to East Lansing.
Well, I'm sure that they'll come in here fired up. You know, they have a great tradition of... if you beat them one year, coming in the next year a little bit upset. And I'm sure that they'll come in here, quite upset over last year and ready to play.
Well, Norm, what kind of weapons does Jerry Faust have in his offensive arsenal at Notre Dame?
Well, he's got big weapons. I mean, he's got great football players. There's no question about it. I think everybody knows that Notre Dame has got good players. In all the polls, they're ranked as a potential #1, as they probably should be ranked as a potential #1.
Of course, Norm, you're on the defensive side of the football, so let's concentrate on Notre Dame's offense with Pinkett and company. What do you look for with them?
Well, they've got Pinkett that they're touting for the Heisman Trophy as a good tailback that can run. The two fullbacks, Smith and Brooks, have been there for 3 years. They've both lettered 3 years, and both of them are 235 pounds. An offensive line that's huge. Probably Larry Williams is the guy that they talk about most, an offensive guard. One wide receiver. They got Joe Howard, the guy that went in and played basketball for them, who's got great speed.
About 4 passes against us last year.
Right. So they're going to come in here with as much as any team we're going to play.
Okay, Coach, let's go to the blackboard now and diagram a little of what Notre Dame looks like, and they line up offensively and what Michigan State might do to try to combat some of that. All right. Well, now here's where the coaches like to go to the blackboard with the X's and O's. And Norm, this is Notre Dame's offense. Tell us how Michigan State will line up against it defensively and what you hope to do.
Well, first of all, when you think about Notre Dame's offense, you got to think about what they've got. From tackle to tackle, right through there, they're probably 6'5". They're average 6'5", 6'6", 265, 270 pounds. The tight end, 6'5", 235. They'll put Pinkett as an I-back, who they're thinking might be a Heisman Trophy guy. They take Smith and Brooks, who have both lettered for the last 3 years. They're the fullback. The quarterback has got all the ability in the world, and the wide receivers have got some speed. But basically, our basic alignment is we would line up with one of our tackles there. We'd play our middle linebacker, and then we'd play our Sam backer here, tackle, and then what we call our will backer, our strong safety, a halfback, who might have just got off the screen, a free safety, and another halfback. And I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to come out, and they'll try to power the ball at us here with Pinkett and power the ball at us with Brooks. And we've got to do some things up in here to just make sure that we can't get overwhelmed by the guys up front. But I'm sure that we're going to see this guy try to carry the ball in here and try to carry the ball here and bounce it outside. And then when we get in there and stop that, then they'll come in here and they'll run plays like this and try to fake that play in there to draw the linebackers up, and then maybe try to curl this guy and bring the tight end across and see what our will backer does to see if he'll, if he jumps this guy, they'll go to the tight end, or if he goes on the tight end, they'll go in here.
Norm, but before you get too specific and without giving anything away, you talked about playing games because you can't match up strength-wise with these big front men. But can you give us an example of one game the linebackers and the middle people can play that might free them up to stop Pinkett?
Well, we play a lot of games up in here. In other words, on the snap of the ball, we could take this guy, and he'll go there and bring this guy around on the snap of the football.
And so who calls that play? Who tells your defense that's going to happen at the last minute?
We would put a lot of this in by a game plan situation. In other words, we would call it, we may call a stunt 4-3 and call a tom game or a reverse tom, or stunt 4-3 with the games. Or
there's no audibilizing by the player right before the snap of the ball?
No. I mean, these two kids talk. In other words, they have to know who's going first. And if you took this formation and lined it up the other way, then you go first and I go first. So there's got to be a lot of communication here.
Sure.
And, it's obvious if somebody goes the wrong way, there's a big hole.
What about trying to blitz a team like this?
You can't go into Notre Dame game thinking that you're going to blitz them every down. Because these guys here are too good. You just can't. You can't spend all day covering over.
And you're not going to stop them. They're going to score. You've got to score more. There's a great deal of responsibility on the offense as well. But Norm, we appreciate your scouting report, and let's hope the final result is the same: a victory for Michigan State.
I'll go for it.
The first time this weekend, they've got the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, a club that you beat last year, a club that lost yesterday.
Yes, it's a great weekend at Michigan State, having Notre Dame at home. Our players and our fans look forward to it. Notre Dame had lost to us last year. They lost yesterday. We had a close game. I think it's a coach's ideal situation. that we go in there and know that they should be upset about losing last year. They should be upset about losing yesterday. We had a close game. The stage is set for a great weekend. I hope that we're all enjoying it next week at this time. Duffy's going to be in. We're going to honor Duffy at halftime. We're going to have, the alumni are going to have a party for Duffy Friday night. There'll be some people from Notre Dame here, so it looks like a nice weekend.
Now, hopefully you'll wrap it up with a victory.
I hope so. Our players are very excited about playing this game.
Okay, next week here on the George Perles Show, we'll have highlights. The Spartans against the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, and we also have a feature for you on the one and only Duffy Daugherty. We'll see you next Sunday.
Tonight's show has been brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance, making your life a little more predictable. By Oldsmobile, there's a special feel in an Oldsmobile. And by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts. Welcome to the George Perles Show. Brought to you by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts. By Oldsmobile. There's a special feel in an Oldsmobile. And by Farm Bureau Insurance, making your life a little more predictable.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Braverman, substituting for Bob Kurtz, who is on assignment with the Minnesota Twins. Welcome back to the George Perles Show. Coach, we sit here now with your Spartans 1-1, and does that mean kind of reality is set in? A very disappointing close loss to the Irish.
Well, you're right, Terry. It was disappointing. So we had a lot of players that played their heart out, and they weren't embarrassed. I don't think we have any embarrassment. In the game, I think that we started off with a tremendous lead. We let it get away from us. Notre Dame, in all fairness to them, came on in the fourth quarter, ball controlled, did some of the things that you have to do to have an excellent team. There's certain times in the game that you have to be able to make your own breaks. You have to be able to play over your bad breaks, and you have to be able to control that ball, take it in, and make sure you get those touchdowns inside the 20 and not field goals. But our players feel bad. They're, to a degree, very upset, but they've taken it the right way. We had an excellent after-the-game situation in the locker room. I think they all feel that They could have won. They wanted to win very bad. We didn't win, and the next thing on the map is to go to Illinois and to play Illinois. But these young people are pretty good, maybe better than older people. They get over these things pretty quick. It's fun to be around youth, and we'll get ready for Illinois.
You made some mistakes, George. So did Notre Dame. But if anything, did it kind of prove to you and the coaching staff and the players that you can play with a big team, a nationally ranked team at one point, and maybe prove that maybe you can beat anybody?
You can if you take advantage of your breaks like we did in the first half. We didn't get too many in the second half. Notre Dame had all their mistakes in the first half. We didn't have too many. We had a fumble in the first half that kept us from getting another score. In the second half, we had a fumble and we had a block punt that hurt very, very much. And after those type of things, they played hard, they blocked well, and they really made some yardage with their running backs. They were hit at the line of scrimmage, but their momentum carried them for extra yardage.
Okay, well, you kept the fans on the edge of their seats, and it was a sellout crowd, and we'll come right back and take a look at the highlights of the Spartans against the Fighting Irish. Well, a sellout crowd was on hand, and a gorgeous day for football, George. A temperature about 60 degrees, and it couldn't have been more exciting.
Well, we had the right setting, being at home, a full house. There's the first kickoff that hit the line and was brought out to the 30. We're running some of our I formation now, trying to set up some type of things. It's a 35 lead C.
Carl Butler had a great day, didn't he?
Yes, Carl had over 100 yards rushing, which is, against the people we're playing there, that's quite a bit of yardage. There's we call a 238 pass we throw to our tight end, Vino Belk. Here they come back now with their 35 lead. Very similar offenses. That was a stop made by our secondary. Now a little bit play pass. It's covered well by Lonnie Young.
Your defense played super early in the game and contained Notre Dame.
Well, they played well last week, too, early in the game. And
here's one that doesn't count.
They called it for pass protection, putting our hand on the face mask. Now we come right back with the same play. We felt that they were worried about our running the football, so it gave us a chance to go deep.
Mark Ingram.
Great catch. He's a young fellow from Flint that's a sophomore that has played well last year as a freshman. Here's a replay of it, and it's thrown perfectly over the outstretched hands of the defender.
He caught 3 passes officially on the day. The other one was the 4th one that didn't count because of the penalty, but he's a big play for you.
Yes, he's the one that can go deep. Here's
Butler.
Carl Butler breaking 4 different tackles to score. A great run. We'll have a chance to see it over again here. But if you count, I think there were 4 tackles that he broke. This is our toss 38.
Let's count them.
Going to the outside. Got 1 right here.
Stiff arm.
Breaks a tackle here, runs over him. And then 2 here at the end. And after they hit him, he carries it for 5 yards. Great effort, and that's what it takes.
You missed the extra point, by the way, the first time you've done that this year.
Well, they came between the guard and center, and that's why it was important. Later on, you'll see us go for 2. Here's another fumble on their exchange.
Jim Ranella, I think, got the ball on that one.
And we get the ball on the 23-yard line, run a toss 39, and go all the way. Right away, we're up 12-0.
Carl Butler runs this ball, George, and it looks like he's wearing glasses underneath his helmet.
He is. He has glasses on, and it really has no effect on his play. He has to wear them, but there's a good toss 39. We went to the weak side a lot because the big side of the field is what they protect, so we want to make sure that we have a chance. If we get one key block like they do with our tight end there, Dino, now he has a chance to cut a great block by our tight end, breaks another tackle, and no one else lays a glove on him into the end zone. 12-0, we can go ahead 13-0 or go for 2. We like to go for 2. A good pass and catch by Ingram again gives us that extra point back, gives us a 14-0 lead.
Jerry Faust has to be concerned at this point. He's lost to Purdue a week ago, and he's down 14-0.
Here's a replay of our 2-point play. And in the end zone, great catch and a fine throw. Now I think it was an audible, and the out end didn't hear it. I was hoping we'd make a cut inside. We had a chance maybe to get even a little bit closer.
Terry Lewis made the interception.
And now
here it is again.
Right here. Good job by Jefferson there. Keep him, only giving him one way to go out of bounds. Had he overrun that, we could have even scored.
That was a 24-yard field goal. It's 17-0, Michigan State. Unbelievable.
Yes, and Notre Dame's running their play pass. Great play here by Phil Parker, breaking up they went for the bomb off the play pass just like we did earlier.
I think Berline only completed 2 passes in the entire first half for Notre Dame.
Here he goes to his tight end. Nothing much gain there.
They do get a field goal from John Carney, and it's 17-3 now, Michigan State.
Yes, and then after our punt here, we have a fumble, recovery, a great opportunity to get another score. And we're moving the ball pretty good. And then we get this untimely fumble on our 25-yard line. In that place there, we would have at least gotten a field goal, I think. It wasn't carried loosely. It was a helmet laid on the ball. Right here you can see it.
Right there.
And it pops out. And that's a break that was made by Notre Dame. It's a little bit disappointing, but we hold them. We're getting the ball back. What happened on this play is our receiver slipped on the turf, fell down, and the ball was thrown right. The pattern was run right.
Bobby
we
Morse
see Bobby Morse, and you can see how the turf is a little bit wet there. He slips and gets up and makes an effort, but had he not slipped, it would have been a perfectly thrown ball, and it would have been a good play. Now we've got to really put the defense in a bad position. We've given the ball with a few minutes left in the half on the 25-yard line. We get a sack here by Morrissey and Ranella, which is a big play. Makes them throw the football because there isn't a whole lot of time left. Now they come with short yardage after a pass and fumble the football. Terry Lewis recovers it. Big play. All we're interested in now is, because we're in there so deep, is getting out of the game at halftime, 17-3, go in the locker room and get ready for some adjustments, and that's exactly what happened.
You know, George, you had Duffy Daugherty back. He's going to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in December, and it was quite a weekend for Duffy and the Spartan fans, and we're going to talk about that, feature Tom Allen, some other exciting moments to come on the George Perles Show, and we come right back.
Okay. There's a whole lifetime to remember. Yeah, I'd give up this Hall of Fame trophy. I'd give up anything for a Spartan victory. And you want to make an old coach, happy. You're playing the game for yourselves. You're not playing. First of all, remember that you're not playing the game. In some degree, you're playing for Michigan, but you're playing for yourself. You're playing for your own pride. There have
been a lot of Fridays the Spartans have prepared for football games in Spartan Stadium, and this fellow right here, Duffy Daugherty, prepared for a lot of them, and young Coach Perles in his sophomore year may be looking for some advice, but Duff, it's so great to see you back here in a place where you belong.
Well, it's always a great thrill to come back to Michigan State. I always approach Michigan State with anticipation and leave with regret. It's just a beautiful school, and it's got a great spirit, and I'm just so proud of George, my good friend and my former player and former helper on the staff. And I just hope with all my heart that he has the great success that his work and enthusiasm deserves.
Duff, Friday night before the Notre Dame game, preparing for any Irish football game has got to be something extra special.
Well, in some respect, I think George will agree with this. It's easier to get ready for Notre Dame because there's a certain magic connotation to playing Notre Dame. I think the players, it's not a question of getting them up. Sometimes you have to shake the trees to get them down and to get their feet on the ground again, because the players are going to rise to the occasion. And I think they're going to play with it. I know they're going to play hard. They're going to play with a lot of enthusiasm. I don't think the Spartan squad can compare right now personnel-wise with Notre Dame. It's going to take another year or two before George has a squad that's going to be on the level of the teams you want to beat most. You want to beat them all, but Michigan, the teams that are toughest to beat, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. But I think that that the enthusiasm that's engendered by George and his staff and by these players is going to offset a lot of that personnel that the Fighting Irish have.
Duffy, as we talk, of course, the people are looking at this on Sunday night, and I want to say to George, I know that he was instrumental, and I'll say this in front of you, in putting together a special tribute to you. And George, I know that this guy holds a special place in your heart, and that's why you organized that tribute for Duffy.
Well, I think that it's great for Duffy and Francie, but it's even greater for the university. There'll be a lot of people here that will associate Duffy's award with the great times that they had while Duffy was coaching, and the winning seasons, the national championship years, the players, the ex-players coming back. It ties all the ends together, and without Duffy, we can't tie anything together. So it's bigger than Duffy's award. It's bigger than a football game. It's Michigan State.
Last year you came in, and George allowed you to speak to the Michigan State football team and then to the staff. You said two things that you wanted them to do, as I recall, and one of them was win the first football game. How important is that, and why did you say that?
Well, you can't win them all unless you win the first. No. I think that there's a certain momentum that goes with winning. There's a certain, it carries on, and they tell, for example, now people are saying about Notre Dame, they lost their first game, that the teams, I've never subscribed to the theory that a
Colorado, they had every opportunity to tie this football game, and boy, that's just, they talk about dodging a bullet. That's dodging a couple of bombs right there for Michigan State. The fans are dancing for joy that are wearing green and white, but really it wasn't much Michigan State could say about it. It was just a bad kick. It was placed down. It was held on to perfectly. He had time to kick it, and now Dave Urema is going to fall on this football, and you can bet they practiced this one many, many times. It's just called falling down on the ball and letting the clock run out because Colorado has no more timeouts. That may have been the last play of the game. Dave Urema and company have perhaps held on to win the season opener and a real heart-stopper, 24-21, and that will run it out here at Boulder, and the Spartans come away with a 3-point victory, 24-21.
I tell you, Terry, that was about as close as you ever want to get them. There's great camaraderie down there in the field now because both these ball clubs know that they have really battled each other right down to the wire here today. It got very warm on the field as the afternoon wore on. The altitude might have affected Michigan State. Some, they're not as used to it, of course, as the Golden Buffalo are. But I tell you, it's still going to be a happy plane ride back home because of the wind. But it's going to be a rather subdued plane ride. I don't think there's going to be any great rejoicing on the plane. Coaches are going to be involved in some quiet conversations with some of the ball players. And while George Perles' club, we thought, Terry, just played an excellent football game in the first half on every phase of the game. Obviously now there is much work to be done before the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame come into Spartan Stadium for the home opener next Saturday afternoon. But again, the players will be coachable. And it's just going to make this ball game even more interesting maybe than when it was going to be because Notre Dame was upset by Purdue and the Spartans barely hold on to win. But some great figures by Vogel in the passing department.
Well, absolutely. That Colorado quarterback attempted 49 passes, too shy of their all-time school record. He completed 25 for 347 yards, and all three of their scores were touchdown passes, one 3 yards, one 24 yards, and one 7 yards. And on the rushing department, Roussan of Colorado rushed for 76 yards. They were only penalized twice for 10 yards, Jim. And Michigan State, Dave Urema, 9 out of 14 passing today, 146 yards. Very good stats. Very low, of course, and 2 touchdowns for Dave, one of 35 yards and the other one for 8 yards. Or I should say the long one for 56 of Carl Butler. And in the running department, Mr. Butler had 64 yards today and 1 touchdown, that 3-yard run. And those are the stats that are important. The final score, the most important, the 3-point victory, Michigan State 24-21.
Okay, that about wraps up the story on the season opener for 1984. Again, Colorado will be on the road at Oregon next week, and Michigan State will be home against Notre Dame. As of tonight, that game time is still 1 o'clock, but that could change depending on possible television throughout the week. Again, we want to thank the folks at Mile High Cablevision here in Denver for the pickup of the telecast for us from Boulder. I want to thank J.D. Anderson again for his excellent job right on all the time with his statistics. For Terry Braverman, Jim Adams is saying so long from Folsom Field in Boulder, Colorado, with a final score in a thrilling contest here today with Michigan State 24 and Colorado 21.